We do begin with that breaking news tonight. The Oregon National Guard is not being deployed in Portland quite yet, despite a ruling today from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that paves the way for that deployment. The court says one order blocking the deployment is still in place. And brand new this evening, President Trump is trying to get that order thrown out. Good evening. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn. Tonight, it's still unclear when and where the Guard might be in Portland. And today, the U.S. Northern Command told Katu that soldiers are not doing any operational activities right now. To better understand this process, we need to get right to Katu's Tanvi Verma outside the ICE facility for us tonight. And Tanvi, how are people there reacting to this latest legal development?
People are not pleased, but you wouldn't guess that by looking at them. About a dozen people are blocking the driveway of the ICE facility, but they've been singing and dancing and shedding light and poking fun at the idea that Portland is a war zone. That's according to them. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals siding with President Donald Trump Monday, ruling that he lawfully deployed the National Guard to Portland. The court calling out protests in Portland, writing, "Some of these protests have been peaceful, but many have turned violent, and protesters have threatened federal law enforcement officers and the building." I talked to two Portland city councilors about the ruling.
This is extremely disappointing, but ultimately not surprising.
There's nothing to protect from. You see dancing frogs and bears.
The Ninth Circuit's ruling says differently, saying the president has the right to deploy troops, claiming Portland police were not doing enough to help. The opinion says in June 2025, PPB Police Chief Bob Day spoke publicly about avoiding any actions that might show perceived or actual support for immigration agents, and that PPB officers report that no officers are available to respond to disturbances at the ICE facility. I asked PPB for an on-camera interview, hoping to find out if PPB feels like the violence outside the facility warranted a call for outside help. A spokesperson declined to answer that question, but did send a statement that reads in part, "We will continue to maintain a presence in the area surrounding the federal facility in the South Waterfront, focused specifically on addressing criminal behavior." And Oregon Governor Tina Kotek held a press conference today. I asked her about what she had to say to the claim that PPB has not been doing their job.
Well, it's just not true. Portland police have not been absent. They have been present. They are on the ground on a daily basis.
The opinion cites Chief Bob Day saying that PPB is not to get involved. Do you feel that that didn't happen?
I haven't had a chance to read the decision, but what they have been doing is monitoring the situation. When people are committing any kind of criminal activity, they are intervening.
I also asked similar questions to Portland city councilors to see how those conversations went. You can go to our YouTube channel, that's K2 on YouTube. Reporting live in South Portland, Tanvi Verma, K2 News.
Tanvi, thank you for that. The White House responded to the court's ruling today, and here's what we can tell you they said. President Trump is exercising his lawful authority. This ruling reaffirms that the lower court's ruling was unlawful and incorrect. An attorney general from Oregon, Dan Rayfield, responded to the ruling today, saying the nation is on a, quote, dangerous path. He said today's ruling, if allowed to stand, would give the president unilateral power to put Oregon soldiers on our streets with almost no justification. He urged people in Portland to stay peaceful while the legal process moves forward. Now, the Attorney General's office says it's hoping for a possible review of this Ninth Circuit ruling. It's hoping a bigger panel of Ninth Circuit judges eventually blocks the National Guard deployment. Constitutional law professor Tung Yin describes it in this way.
If you want to think of it in football terms, it's not quite as dire as a Hail Mary. Probably not even as bad as the new onside kick rule, but you're behind and time's running out.
Today's ruling came from a 3-judge panel. They sided with the Trump administration in a 2-to-1 ruling. The judge who sided with Oregon has now asked a bigger panel of Ninth Circuit judges to review today's ruling. If that happens, 11 judges from the Ninth Circuit review the Trump administration's argument to deploy the National Guard, and then they'll make a ruling at that point. The legal process can be certainly confusing, which is why we're on your side trying to explain it in simple terms. So here's how we got here. President Trump ordered the Guard to Portland in late September. The city and state sued and asked a judge to block the administration from deploying troops while their lawsuit played out. A federal district judge sided with the state twice and blocked the Guard. The federal government then appealed to the Ninth Circuit, asking for permission to deploy the Guard as the lawsuit goes through the legal process. The troops stayed under federal control. Now one temporary restraining order is on pause and the second order is still in effect. This is a developing news story that we're continuing to track closely. Keep it with Katu for the latest updates into our newsroom. You can also find a copy of today's ruling in full online now at katu.com.